Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 8 Ounces of Inspiration. And today we have somebody who is so inspiring and whose journey will move you to wanting to do something really, really more empowering and impactful with your own life and leave you wondering, what am I doing right now? Just leading my life for my own self, my own profits, and me, myself, and I. So we have with us Sujata Sahu here. She's NITI Aayog's top 30 women transforming India. She's an awardee by the President of India for Nari Shakti Awards. She's a TEDx speaker, and she's the founder of 17,000 Feet Foundation. She works in the Ladakh area, and she has helped to transform many lives and many villages who are in the hardest and the most challenging terrains of India. And she works with children. She set up playgrounds. She's collaborated with some of the biggest corporate houses and banks to bring them there to create opportunities, to create facilities for these children who are in these remote areas, and help schools, the government schools out there, come up with robust programs so that children have equal opportunities like children all around the world. So with us, we have Sujata. Sujata, a very warm welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for taking out time for this. I still remember when we did this program, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program, and you won the pitch deck competition, right, for this particular project. And I think that was like 10 years ago. So I think so much has happened in 10 years, and so much you've done in these 10 years, which I think people take like a lifetime to do. So I want to start immediately with asking you, you were in the US, right? What was the turning point? Did you shift to India because you wanted to do something different, or was it just a natural shift? And what started your journey for 17,000 Foundation?
Okay, yeah. First of all, thanks, Nidhi, for having me on board. It's great to see you again. 10 years don't seem like 10 years when I'm talking to you again. So great to be on the show. Hi, everyone. My name is Sujata Sahu. So a little bit about me. You're right, Nidhi. I was in the US for a good 9 years. I come from a corporate background, information technology. Like most people, my peers in the early 90s, I migrated to the US to be I was part of the brain drain. And actually, honestly, I took that word brain drain very seriously. Do you remember, if you cast your mind back to the 90s, for those of you who are old enough to remember, a lot of us people in the IT sector actually moved to the US because jobs are better, money was better. But we were called part of the brain drain. And that I took it very, very much to heart, saying, this is the country that I grew up in, what am I doing there? But I did spend 9 years there, gained a lot of experience, worked with a lot of multinationals and corporates. But in my heart of hearts, I've always wanted to come back. Multiple reasons. My family, my parents are here. So I wanted to come back. I didn't want to ever be in that position of being in two different countries. And also, yeah, India's home. There's no other two ways about it. So India's home. And in 2002, I made a conscious choice. I made things happen so I could move back to India, which I did. And at that point, I decided to quit my corporate career. I moved back to India, decided to focus on my real passion, which is working with children. So back in 2002, I quit for a while, not really knowing what that meant, but education and children have been my passion for the longest time. I do a lot of kids myself. And I decided, I got involved in a lot of school activities with my children's schools, after school programs for my children and their friends. I got involved in a lot of small social activities, and the starkness of what I had seen and lived in the US, it's a far more privileged life out there. Systems are so much better. And then you come back to India, and where you see that, there are gaps in the system. There are bricks everywhere. Things which should have gone on smoother don't. So I think because I lived there for 9 years, I took it very much to heart, saying, why can't these systems be fixed? And so that was my mindset. I was also at that time also picked up, I used to take children trekking. Trekking is another great big hobby of mine. I love the mountains, love just going off by myself. So I used to take a lot of children trekking because I felt it's a great equalizer, children from multiple backgrounds, rich, poor, wherever they are. When you come up to the mountains, you are one with the elements and you have to look out for each other and you have to learn to appreciate nature. So I would take children out. I was doing a lot of things with children. I even taught for a couple of years. I taught in a very good school here in Gurgaon, in an international school. I was teaching math and computer science. But my heart was always in education, children, outdoors, and things like that. So back in 2010, for the first time, I went to Ladakh. And this was actually so all the things I've been doing till now, it was multiple things. It was not like a long spanning career. After a career of 15 years in corporate IT, for the next 6-7 years, I did multiple things with children and education. But in 2010, when I went to the Ladakh for the first time, my husband told me about Ladakh and I had never visited there. My husband told me to go and he used to talk about Ladakh a lot. He had visited there quite a lot when he was a lot younger. And everything, all the stories he told me about Ladakh didn't sound true. The remoteness, the starkness, the high altitude, unable to breathe, temperatures. I'm like, it's not possible. But he said, no, you have to go there and experience it. But the best way to go there is solo. It was like a challenge. I don't know if it was a challenge. I took it as one. So 2010, I went to Ladakh on my first solo trek.
Wow.
I was there for 3 weeks. I really did not know what to expect. I just said, okay, let me see what Ladakh is. And I think that trip really changed my life, my perspective, my outlook. Everything that I knew to be right and true was gone out the window. Because in that trip, not only did I fall extremely unwell, because of the high altitude, I didn't acclimatize very well, couldn't breathe, had pulmonary edema, a whole bunch of things. I was stuck in a remote village. I was doing this trek. On this trek, it took me a day to reach this village, no roads. I just go across mountains. And I was breathing. My breathing was very bad. I had a lot of difficulty breathing, climbing, walking. I reached this village which had exactly one home. Just one home. And nothing else for miles around. Just imagine a mountain, barren mountain, not even green. Barren mountains, which is approximately at an altitude of 15,000 feet. And crossing passes of 15,000 feet, and you come into this clearing where there's one home of 3 people and 2 or 3 goats, and I couldn't breathe. I was very, very sick. That brought me to the sense of realities of how people live here, and my phone wasn't working. There's no way I could call home or call a doctor and say something's wrong with me. In that home was a family of 3 people, and they were very kind to me, gave me a place. I stayed there for the night, like a homestay. But I wasn't prepared for how unwell I was. On my way to that trek is where I saw my first school. I saw a school which had 3 children. I think 3 or maybe 4 children. The entire school had only 4 children. It was a tiny little dilapidated building with 2 rooms, broken whiteboards, broken doors. But it was a school. It was a functioning government school. So in my illness, my inability to call home or tell my husband, not knowing what I was going through, and the starkness of everything around me completely changed my perspective on life. That's when I realized that there is a world outside my boundaries where I live in Gurgaon, where it's a completely different world. There are communities who live in isolation and perfect happiness in the middle of nowhere, beyond mountain passes that you didn't even know existed. And here I was thinking, I've seen all the cities of the country, and there was this really remote place, and it blew my mind. I can't tell you any other way, but it felt like there was a moment for me, right? Something just clicked in my brain and said, Sujata, something's here. Go explore a little bit more. And despite my illness, I was there for 3 weeks, roamed many villages, stayed in a nunnery, went to 3 more villages, did 2 more treks, despite doctor's advice. And I came across so many small villages, with some with 20 homes, one with one home, a tiny school with 5 children, 8 children. That for me was an eye-opener. That the school I was in had 1,000 kids with privileged children coming in cars with fancy pocket monies. And here is a school with studying in English medium who'd never seen the world outside their hamlets. There are no roads, no electricity, no phone connectivity. Temperatures dropped down to minus 50 degrees. And they were these happy, smiling kids running around, offering me their homes, their snacks, and just welcoming me. And that was it was a turning point. I mean, you can't get to do what I do unless something really shakes you to the core. And I think that did. It shook me to the core that there is a system here, there is a world out here that I think somewhere in there I can do something, like I needed to be part of. There was kind of a start for my journey.
But how did you explore the idea or that this is I can do, this is what I can do, or this is what I can, this is what I want to do and it's possible to do, right? Because you're saying that they're so remote. The fact that you felt sick would deter anybody, right, to go back again, or the family would get fearful and say, don't go back again, right? You were so sick. What drove, right? Something in you drove you to say, okay, I'm going to work in establishing schools, or I'm going to work with the people there and bring. What was it? Because it must have been a really, really strong calling.
It is, Nidhi. I'll tell you something. Even in the school that I was teaching in, I loved teaching. I loved interaction with my children. But there, I think since I came back from the US, there has been a dissatisfaction inside me. I would call it a dissatisfaction, maybe a question in my mind. And the question I've been building over years, what am I doing? Okay, I've worked for 15 years, great exposure, excellent companies, but how is it making a difference? So even in the school that I was working in, or the times that I would take children trekking, I've always tried to push myself a lot more. Can I do a lot more? Ultimately, the people or the children I'm interacting with, can they get a lot more out of this experience? And am I making a difference? For me, it was always about, am I making a difference in this world? So in that mind frame is when I went to Ladakh. And in Ladakh, I experienced solitude. I experienced oneness with a different community altogether. And being alone with just your thoughts. Honestly, Nidhi, try being in a place for 4 days without phone communication, right? Trust me, your thoughts will crystallize a lot better. So I believe that entire feeling of I've come into this world which I've never experienced before, and it's about education. It was all about things that I was passionate about, children, education. It seemed like things just clicked. It just felt like I found this one place where I could make a difference. I come from a privileged background. I come from a place where I was teaching in a privileged school. And I come into a school with 3 children, 5 children who are struggling to read a little book in English, right? And they're not the first generation learners. They don't know the language. And I really felt I can make a difference. That was it. It was like I was driven. The minute I made up my mind, it just felt right. It felt that, yes, there is one place where I can make a difference. So all my questions were kind of put to rest over the years. I was questioning myself, what am I doing? I'm making a difference.
And the process comes alive.
It just comes alive. And then I was like someone possessed over the next 1 year. After spending 3 weeks in Ladakh, I came back to my home and I talked to my husband and I said, you've been trekking for so long, you never told me about the schools. He said, I told you to go on a trek, not go to a school. So he's been there, he's seen schools, but for me, the starkness of the have and the have not, right? The difference between the school I was teaching in with these schools was too much. I felt these children deserved a lot better. So I was a lot driven by that time, and I was possessed. I can't tell you any other.
How did
my every waking moment was, sorry?
And how did you start? Like, okay, so you decided, or you knew that this is my calling, I want to go back, I want to do something for the schools there or the people. So how, usually like there's just so much thought process that goes into starting something. right?
Absolutely.
How did you just begin and how did you get there?
The begin part, that's a good question. So at that point, I was filled with, yes, I want to do something. And that's all I knew. I want to do something. What that something was, I had zero clue. And I think that's how most of us start, right? You find a need. Even a businesswoman, an entrepreneur just finds a need in the system, a market. Call this a market. That's it. I found a need. But what? How do you do what you want to do? And what is it that you want to do, right? That journey took me a year, I'll be honest. And so as I started this whole thing, all I knew was, yes, the education system needs to change. And yes, I can help change that. So what started as a general, I want to change something, went on to a lot of research. I didn't know anything about the nonprofit industry. So I read a lot. I reached out to anyone who would care to listen. If early days I was talking about Ladakh to everyone, I knew so little about Ladakh. I read about Ladakh. I started asking questions. I went to non-profit companies to say, what is it that they do? Are nonprofits working to improve education? If so, what are they doing? Where do they get funds from? So it took me to many nonprofits. A lot of nonprofit leaders were very willing to share information, knowledge, technology, whatever it is. And this started building up my idea. So what I understood, I think what was the core thing I did was, in an entire 1 year, I did so much research. I understood the size of the problem. It's the same thing, right? As in, you want to go tackle something. Do you know how big the problem is, right? So I had to do a lot of research on that as to what is the size of the problem, how many schools are there, what is the real problem, why is the education system wanting. It took me a while, and also I knew I couldn't do this alone. So the other thing was, simultaneously, I started garnering support from two other people very close to me. One is my husband, and the other is a very close friend of ours who's a Ladakhi. So I told my husband, you took me there, you owe me this. So can we do something? And it helps that he loves Ladakh as much, probably more than I do. So I started chipping away at their defenses, saying, look, can we do something about it? But it's easy to say, can we do something about it, unless you have a model in place, right?
Yeah.
That model took a long time coming in. First of all, was to understand what's the size of the problem, what is the core reason the problem is, as in, what's the problem? The problem clearly is, what I understood is that, Ladakh is a really, really vast area. There are 1,000 schools in Ladakh, 1,000. And the average school size is barely 25 children. Why is it so small? Because the villages are so far apart, and each village from another village could be 2 to 3 hours away. Okay? And these are high altitude regions, and it is hard for the government to administer villages which are, so far away, which take 3 days of a walk to reach. Without electricity or phone connectivity, it is a problem.
Yeah.
And there, to post a teacher, to open up a little school for 25 children or even 5 children is a big administrative problem. But despite it, there were those schools. But what was happening with the schools was that, with 25 children in a school, parents are beginning to feel that, the school isn't good enough. It's a little rundown building, not the greatest infrastructure in the world. So they were sending little children, 3-year-olds, 4-year-old children, to faraway towns alone, just to be enrolled in private schools and dormitories to study, which for me was a big red flag. I wouldn't send my 4-year-old alone to stay in a hostel or an extended family just because he can get good education. That for me was a big no-no. So that for me was a core problem. Why are parents sending their children away even though there is a school in their backyard? Right? So which told me that yes, parents want education. Second, there is a good school. Third, if there is a good school and parents want education, can we just mix both of them? Can we convince the parent that the school is good? And can we make the school good?
Yeah.
So that became kind of, understanding what to do. And then there is other things about what programs you run. And anyway, it's been a journey. As in, it was the hardest first 2 years without funds.
Yeah.
As any entrepreneur will tell you.
And this is accessibility from there. Like if you just land up there, of course, they don't know who you are. And you say that I want to change the system, or these are the things we can do to make Would the teacher be open to it? Were they open? Were the parents okay? I mean, I don't know how the Indian system works, but can you just walk into a government school and say, I want to?
No, you can't. No, you can't. So that's the thing, right? So you said something very interesting. You can't just walk into a school and say, I'll change the system. There's two things in there. One, you can't walk into a school. Number two, you can't change the system. Okay. So for me to understand these two took a while. You come from a privileged school, a fancy school, and then you say, oh, that's how it should be done.
Yeah.
And you see a tiny school with 5 children and say, how is this possible? But you see, here's a problem. You don't come into a problem with the solution. You don't come into a problem with the solution that you think you already know without understanding the problem, right? So how you would run a fancy international school of 1,500 children is vastly different than how you would run a school with 15 children. So you have to understand why 15 children.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus trying to put those systems there. So yes. So it took a lot of unlearning. That I think was the best part of my journey. Was just taking everything I had in my head, keeping it aside and say, okay, Sujata, let the journey begin. I think that was the best part of my life, to understand it's a great thing that there is a school for 15 children. It's a great thing that parents want education. They want very simple things. They want their child to learn English. The teachers are desperate for exposure. The teachers actually want help. The teachers feel that nobody cares about them. It's not that the education system is bad. It is that they don't feel included. So I started working on all of those other things, reaching out to the remotest of schools to start with. So we actually went in and said, let's not put too much pressure on the system. I said, we came up with a really audacious plan. And I found that these schools had no books to read, no toys, no games, nothing at all. Even the village didn't even have a shop. So I said, how about we give them, because it's English medium, how about we give them library books to read? They've never seen storybooks. They've never seen a storybook. Can you imagine that? I grew up on libraries of books. I've been a big reader. My children are readers. So I went up to Pratham Education Foundation and went this audacious idea. We want to set up libraries in 100 schools. 100 schools of Ladakh. Why? Because I wanted to make reading a big thing. I wanted children to get an exposure to the outside world. If you see how those days, how children used to draw about things, they would draw about just what they saw, which was a mountain, prayer flags, a yak, and a river. That's it. Like we were taught to draw a coconut tree.
Yeah.
You know that, right? So, but that's all these children had seen. Many of the villages didn't have television then. But I said they need to see the world outside. There's so much beauty outside as well. So we went in and, Pratham Education Foundation, they said, okay, we'll help you set it up. They gave us 20,000 books. Somebody donated wood for library racks. And we felt like kings. I registered a non-profit. I said, let's just go. Let's set up libraries. Let's teach the children to make reading fun. Let's start from there. Let's get parents excited about getting something new in their schools. That's how we started. 20,000 books. My family vehicle, me and my husband, and wood for building racks. And we felt like kings. We drove up to Ladakh, set up a tiny little office somewhere, our funds, the three of us, my husband and me and our friend, a co-director. And we said, let's go. And we visited every single village of Ladakh to choose our first 100 schools. Wow. You won't believe it. We visited 1,000 villages.
Wow.
Took us 3.5 months. No more, 5 months. I put my children on the job. I told my children, here's a Garmin, here's a tracking device, here's a form, here's a camera. Go find this school, photograph it, tell me how many children are there, fill up this form, do interview with the villagers and come back. I want to know what the aspirations are. This is primary survey at its best in Ladakh.
And your kids were also with
you? We set up 100 libraries. Sorry?
The kids were also with you?
Yeah. My own kids, all our kids, I have 5 children.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've all volunteered, they've all gone.
Wow.
They've slept in cars, they've slept in tents, drank endless cups of tea. I've slept in tents myself while I have set up a library in the school. I've gone to villages where a child has looked at me and burst out crying because I look so different. Because I don't look like a Ladakhi or, I've cooked by the river, little streams. My team and I, we have cooked by the stream, slept there and just... and the most amazing reactions, right? Just take a book, give it to the teacher. And the first reaction of teachers was they just touch the book and they say, book looks so new and shiny and it's so colorful. Are you just giving it away? I said, please take it.
It's so precious when you share this, right? I can almost visualize the entire, when you're saying it, and I can just sense it's so alive in you still.
It is.
Right? Yeah.
It still is. I remember the first school I went to, it is in the border of China, not first, maybe second or third. China border, I go there, I take all these books and, we paint their walls. So when we went to these schools, the children and teachers were so excited. They took the books and whatever the drawings were on the books, they painted it on their walls. It was the most amazing thing. Like I said, their outlook changed. And here I'm telling this, I pick up a storybook and I'm telling stories to children. And the children from, nursery up to grade 8 are listening to me. The nursery kids couldn't understand English, but I was talking in a mix of English and Hindi. And I'm telling them stories with, voice modulation and action. And everybody's just hanging. No one's ever told a story to them like that. I've told stories to my children like that. And with all my actions, they're repeating my actions. And 3-4 days that I spent in the village, and the children come to me and says, "Ma'am, will you come back? And nobody ever comes here." And that's the sentiment that I was left with, that no one comes here. And I promised them, I said, "No, I will come back. I may not, but my team will." And you won't believe it, Nidhi, 5 years later, 3 or 4 years later, another of my friends went to that same village. And she was talking about me. My friend came, 17,000 feet came. And these young children remembered, they didn't remember my name very well, but they remembered the storybook. I read the stories and the actions. Can you believe it? 4 years later.
The impact it had.
No, it's the isolation, right?
Yeah.
So I think be one of them. I think the children there deserve the same kind of access to good education. Now we've adopted, actually, I'll tell you what, we're also in Sikkim now. We're doing the same work in very remote villages of Sikkim. So from when I met you 10 years ago to now, we've got 4 offices now. We're working across 4 districts, almost 300 schools, working in 2 states and equally remote villages. There is a village in Sikkim that, oh God, I had to cross 2 rickety bridges. Just rope bridges, which is shut for, 4 months of a year due to severe rains. The bridges are closed. So there's just a tiny bridge which shakes like crazy and you can see the flowing river underneath. You don't want to look down, you don't want to look up, you just want to reach the other side. But people live there. And you cross it, you walk for 3 to 4 hours and then you suddenly come across this beautiful village with 15, 20 children just bright-eyed, eager and waiting to see what you got. So I've set up playgrounds. I want the children to have a great learning atmosphere. They've never seen playthings. And now we carry these playgrounds from, swings and slides and seesaw or horseback. Villagers come out in droves to help carry these. I've set up solar electricity. I've given tablets to about 200 schools. Children are learning out of tablets now. Teachers are being trained. And it's exciting stuff. It's... And when I get a response from a child or a teacher who says, "Thank you for coming. Yeah, we love the tablets. We love the storybooks." And, attendance is increasing. Children are enrolling in government schools more because of that slide, because of that swing they've never seen before. My heart's full.
Yeah. It's wow. It's just so heartwarming to even just hear all these things. And, I totally hear you that I think somewhere I feel most of us who live, like you say, in the bigger cities, in the urban areas, we switch ourselves. Even when we go to places like Ladakh or Sikkim, we all see it, but somewhere it's switched off. We don't observe, we don't grasp, we just ignore, or maybe we are not even aware or mindful about these things, right? For it to, and I think it's just so beautiful that just one person's awareness and mindfulness of that thing can make such a big difference in so many children's lives. It's so beautiful, and so many parents' lives. See, because as parents, you and I are parents, we always aspire, we want to give the best education, the best facilities, or at least, like you say, playground, swing and slide, these are basic things that we wish we saw our children, do it in a structured way. And it's wonderful. So have any of your kids out of the 5 joined the foundation and are taking the work forward with you, or they're all doing their own things?
So they've joined at various stages. They've not joined us. They've come in and done projects. One of them has done almost work with us for a year. We keep trying to pull them in, but we'd rather them find their own path. So yes, all of them have volunteered, work with us in Ladakh, in the head office, various capacities for sure. I would say that my kids are, their social consciousness, their mindsets are a lot different. I think somewhere what we do, how we do has rubbed off on them.
Of course.
But I think one of the 4 kids is definitely has been working only in the social sector. One of the 5 kids. And the others will meander, find their way.
Yeah.
There's no plan per se, Nidhi, that we'll hand it over to our kids. Yeah. That's still got another 20 years to go.
Of course. No, I just meant that, see what happens is sometimes you get, you find a path because you've already set a path, right? And like you said, when they're inclined, and it's a lot easier for them now to grow into this and to create because you've done so much of hard work. The recognition is there now. So the support comes a lot easier. Right now, with all the awards that you've received, your associations with the bigger corporates, the collaborations, it's a lot easier to now, even because the credibility is there, that you can introduce more things, right? Today,
absolutely.
You want to go to any of them and say, look, I want to, like you said, now you're setting up solar electricity, you might do something for women empowerment, help them set up their own businesses or e-commerce shops, whatever it is, because now you have the ecosystem that you feel now I can pull it together. They trust you, and here your stakeholders who are sponsoring also trust. So you mobilize.
So I think my biggest challenge in the first 5 years, I think, was setting up that ecosystem. Yeah. You see, no one really knew that much about Ladakh. Now Ladakh has become a union territory, and thanks to it being in the news a lot, people even know that it's so remote or this. I mean, it was a tourist destination, but I think it's now the problems are coming forward, the opportunities are coming forward. The people of Ladakh are also getting a lot more empowered, asking for their rights. There is because it's got its own UT government now. A lot more opportunities coming their way. So the first struggle for us, first 5 years, was getting corporates to understand the need for actually working in this area, people to donate. That's become a lot easier. And for us, what started out as a Ladakh, and we named ourselves 17,000 Feet Foundation, saying that there are thousands of villages beyond altitudes of that height, right? And we don't know about them. We see what's on our highways and what's in our vicinities and where they're closer to airports. And I think we're kind of, like you said, it's not that we don't observe, right? We don't observe. So for me, when we set up 17,000 feet, initially the name we wanted to keep for the foundation was something more Ladakh. Then we said, look, if we can do this in Ladakh, we can do it in the other states of the Indian Himalayan region. And Ladakh is arguably the toughest of the lot.
Yeah.
The terrain there is the worst. I mean, minus 50 degrees. I've been training teachers in minus 50 degrees centigrade. There are teachers who come and walk for, 6 hours over snow just to be present for a teacher training session, or you don't know the hardships that people and children go through there. So I said there are thousands more villages like that. And there is very little happening in those areas, the Indian Himalayan region. There's a lot of, the more we realized it, there's a lot of work happening in the main urban towns, the urban poor, many rural areas, but rural, remote, high altitude, very little. And geographical challenges being about. So that's why the 17,000 feet name gives us that thing, that we will work only in high altitude. We said start with Ladakh, move to the other regions. And so a lot of the work we did in the first few years has increased awareness about the need to spread. And that has been one big part of my job. I actually used to talk and
have a lot easier for others too.
I'm hoping. Once we create this ecosystem, others do jump in, and it's happening.
That's great, because we need more change makers. Now tell me, I want you to share some tips or something things, because you made the shift from corporate to this non-profit sector, and it is a shift, right?
Huge.
It's financially a huge shift. Mindset, of course, the kind of work, we are used to in a structured environment, air-conditioned cabins, and then moving to really grassroots level groundwork, like you said, minus 50 degrees, and you got to be there. If somebody is going through that churn in their life where they're looking for the purpose of life, or they are looking for answers, right? So they're closer to now at that point where they say, okay, this is it, this doesn't serve me. I get the money, but I'm not happy. I want to do something. What would be your advice or share with them so it gives them a little bit of food for thought for the shift that they want to make? What are the things that they should be really aware of or be mindful of when they are shifting? Because I'm sure initially a lot of other thoughts also, like I remember when I gave up corporate to start my own, every time I would go, like I'm a little bit more like into dressing up and stuff, and I would go and stand outside one of those malls, in Valley Fair, like in Bay Area, and I would look at the price of the shoe, and then I would be like, oh God, I can't buy it, right? Because the wallet doesn't allow it anymore. I'm bootstrapped, and I had to leave. So for some months, it was a lot of like, oh God, and let it go till you start to see that, okay, it's okay. I can be happier without it. I can live without it. And then this gives me so much happiness because it's my own. And I'm doing what is purposeful for my life, what is my calling. But there's a time that you realize that, right? That when that peace and that centeredness takes some time to come in for you to get calm. So what would you say to them if somebody...
So you asked me 2 or 3 questions. I'll try to break it down a little bit for you. So for one, if there are people who are going through a churn like I did, right? For a few years, I was like, am I making a difference? What am I doing, right? And I'm sure a lot of people call it the midlife crisis. It was my midlife crisis. I'm sure a lot of people who spent a lot of time in corporate will be going through this. If you are going through that, one piece of advice I would say is just don't be too hung up on, I want to start something new, I want to shift into the corporate sector or whatever. My advice would be is even while you're in the corporate sector and going through the churn, dedicate a good, few hours of a week to volunteering in any nonprofit. Just volunteer. And when you say volunteer, don't go there with a wish list to change everything. Just go there to observe. Trust me, what you know in the corporate sector will help you later, but it'll help you after you first unlearn what you've learned. Okay, so first go and volunteer, observe, and see what it is. See if that is there for you. It will take you months to even understand that is this something you want to do. All right. So one, I will definitely recommend that you volunteer one place. That will give you a sense of how people live, how people have made that shift. That closeness itself will help you.
Yeah.
The second thing is, once you get into the nonprofit sector, whether you are founding something yourself or you're getting into it, again, the strongest piece of advice I'll give you is don't go in there with the mindset saying, I want to change the system. Okay. Trust me, you don't know the system. You don't, right? So go in with the, I would say, go in with the intention of accepting the system.
And work with it.
Accept what is there. Then you work with it, then you can better it. Right? Unless, this is true of majority of this, unless, you're talking of something extremely wrong, like, child trafficking. You can't, yes, you have to accept that it exists for whatever reason, right? People do it for a certain reason. There's some parts of it you still have to accept. But so what I'm saying, that's the second thing. Now, the third thing is what you talked about is, the idea you think is that when you get into the nonprofit sector, if you're going into jobs, if you want to take a job in a company, in an NGO, money is scarce, money is limited, you won't get as much. Sure, definitely you will not get the same as corporate, but things are changing quite a bit, all right? Don't sell yourself short, but do expect that, yes, you might have to take a 40% cut, 50% cut, maybe even, right? But obviously, if you have that churn in you, you already know it.
Yeah.
So accept it. Keep it aside and move on to the other part. right? So I think our dichotomy comes in into our brain when you start keep weighing the two. Should I get into, is the money expected or not? Try and give up one of them. And when I say give up, at least try and accept one of them, right? That's what I'm saying. Immersion in the nonprofit sector will get you. You're never going to say, oh, I will have, for example, you said, right, you bootstrapped, you restarted your entrepreneurial journey. You bootstrap what you could have bought 3 years ago. Today you try not to buy. You accepted it, right?
Yeah.
So it's the situation has changed for you, right? So what I'm saying is, I don't think the money is a given. For sure, you do get decent money nowadays.
Yeah.
Pretty decent, and you can ask for it. It'll never match up to a MNC job, but you still get pretty decent money. So ask for what is there, understand what is there. But I think that the shift to this is to accept the fact that it's going to be a change in mindset in the job. I think that's what you need to be thinking about more. That's what you need to be thinking about more, and you'll be amazed. You will start doing less. You'll start buying less.
Yes, I know.
You're not going to do it consciously. Unconsciously, you do it.
Happens, yeah. It's just not present anymore.
So that's not a conscious choice you make. It's just part of the whole thing. Yeah. It's like going into a new country and you have to learn their language, and before you know it, it's like if I move to Bombay now, my Hindi is going to change overnight. I start speaking Bombaya Hindi. You're not doing it consciously. Everybody around you is doing it. You also do it. Yeah. So I say don't think about it too much. Yeah, observe good. So I think that's really helped me. I don't. If you ask me today, yes, I don't buy the things I bought before. Definitely not. Our traveling has changed. Where we stay, what kind of hotels we go to has changed. But we're having fun. I'm not comparing. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And now coming towards the end of the questions that I had, I want to ask you. I know that you offer volunteering opportunities, right? Your internships. That's something I'm sure a lot of the people who are hearing this would love to know, because after hearing you speak, I think everyone right now must be like, oh my God, I want to go and I also want to do something which can be very, very purposeful. So just share with us how this works. Where can they go and get more information about it, so they can, if they wish to volunteer for the 17,000 Foundation.
Okay, so great. So I will explain this. So we offer volunteering programs for short term. These are very, very short term programs, 10 to 15-day programs for people who want to spend their vacation doing something good. Okay, these are not long term. Long term internships are different. So look, we work in possibly one of the most gorgeous places on earth, and everybody wants to come to Ladakh or a remote area like Sikkim. But I'm saying, if you come to a remote area like Ladakh, can we really show you the real Ladakh, not just the touristy places? If you can stretch yourself out of your comfort zone, and instead of going, if you're one of those who wants to step away from staying in a fancy hotel with all the great trappings of life, and if you want to really observe what it is, then come and volunteer with us. And these short-term volunteer opportunities give you an opportunity to do just that. So in the 10 days that you go to volunteer with us, what you will be doing is you will become one of our team members. You will travel with my team, who will go to some remote village in some remote part of Ladakh, which is not on the tourist grid. And you will go stay in the village with my team. And you will do what they do. We'll train you for that. And it's largely about going to a school, reading storybooks to children, helping them get more comfortable with the tablet-based program, helping us to retrain teachers, or even physically upgrading the school, maybe painting the school, setting up a playground and things like that. And the idea is, in those 4 to 5 days, you're going to be out of connectivity. You're going to be staying in a very simple remote village. You stay the way the villagers do. And the money that you would have spent on a vacation is going to go to them, which means you're also contributing to their income. You're contributing to 17,000 feet's work by working in the schools. You're going to help us reach more villages. And it's an experience for you for a lifetime. Absolutely. And we keep it short to 10 days because it takes a lot to, stretch us out of your comfort zone and go live in a remote village. But you can get information about this on our website. And we haven't yet opened up our volunteering programs for this year, but it should go online in the next 10, 20 days or so. But yeah, you can go on to 17,000ft.org and you will find some information there. But this year we're doing a select opportunity simply because, well, for 2 years of COVID, we've not been allowing volunteers in for obvious reasons. So this year we'll be opening it slowly. So come in, but remember, it's not a walk in the city, for sure. There's no public transport.
I'm committing that I'm going to make it happen at some point. I just have to figure out when.
Awesome. I promise you.
Teach Zumba and Bollywood and do the fun stuff with the kids, right?
Sorry?
I'm saying I'll probably do the Zumba and Bollywood and the fun stuff with the kids.
Possibly.
Yeah. I'll teach them dance. I'll teach them activities that they probably will enjoy.
Yes, that's the whole idea. Bring your creativity with you and try and understand how the schools function. It comes with the work that we do. So yes, come in. But again, like I said, it's going to be a stretch of comfort for everyone. It is not for everyone, but I promise you coming, you probably will come back again. A lot of our volunteers come time and again. Some of them are coming and spend 2 to 3 long, months.
Wow.
And fundraise for us and things like that. We want to spread awareness about remote villages to go beyond what you just see. So that's basically what our volunteering programs are about.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Sujata. And thank you for sharing this amazing journey and so many of your personal stories and personal connects from from the time that you started, because I think that is what really touches the heart and makes us take that one step forward, towards what we want to do. Thank you. And I think a lot of our audience is going to probably be getting onto your website right now to look for those volunteer opportunities and probably join you in the near future and do some great work with 17,000 Feet Foundation. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thanks, Nidhi. Thank you.
All parts of over 17,000 feet around the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great speaking.